Welcome to another episode of the IRONMAN Insider presented by Maurten. I'm your host, Matt Lieto. We're in World Championship season. Lots going on. Triathlon's got a bunch of different races this time of year. Obviously, we've had a lot of events going on the Ironman scene, and a lot of other events, like I said, are happening. And we've got an athlete that's been doing a lot of different types of triathloning, and that's Taylor Knibb. We got her as a guest. I'm pretty excited. What's going on, Taylor?
Well, thank you for flying in for this interview. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but thank you.
This is, you're on your home turf, and I wanted to give you a bit of an edge in the interview, because I know it can be intimidating.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
You're supposed to say I'm not intimidating.
Oh.
I'm not. I may be a little bit intimidating. I don't think so.
It depends.
In what situation have I been intimidating?
I don't know. I just haven't experienced it yet.
No, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So you've lived in Boulder for how long now?
Almost 4 years.
And we're into it?
I love it.
Yeah.
I know it's not for everyone, but I love it.
And what is it? What do they say? We were talking about this recently. They call it the bubble.
The Boulder bubble.
The Boulder bubble. What does that mean? That the world outside of Boulder doesn't exist, or?
I probably use the term without knowing its full definition. But it's kind of like a little pocket. Like you kind of like it's like not really a reality.
Yeah.
It's just it's a very unique place, and I feel like you have to really experience it to get it.
Is it like utopia for a professional triathlete?
For some, probably it's the opposite. For others, it just depends on how you slice it. But
that's true.
It's like I would fly into Denver, come to Boulder, pretty much stay.
Yeah.
And then fly out. So you just kind of like hunker down.
Because you got everything you need. There's no reason to go anywhere else.
Well, no, I don't have rain. So I'm going to need to learn how to ride in the rain. And I thought Boulder was perfect. I'll never have to go to training camps. But my first rain ride of the year was July 27th. And so Dan and I have decided that I need to go on some rain camps.
We need to do some rain camps. So that's a good little segue because you've been pretty busy.
But also not. I had like a nice 2-month break.
Yeah, but do you like that is a pretty big break. But is there not a lot of Taylor went to the Olympics, this little thing called the Olympics, did 2 races. 3 races, I apologize. The time trial, the team relay, and the individual. Mm-hmm. There you go.
2 are easy to forget, but
I wouldn't say that. I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, 2 months does seem like a good little break, but is there not kind of a lot of buildup and pressure going into, like, training for peaking for like Kona every year, that always seemed like a lot of pressure. Peaking for an event that happens every 4 or 3 years, as the Olympics has the last cycle, is that not, do you kind of not need a little bit of a like break, or you're not into that?
Oh no, my body got properly sick afterwards, so
okay.
It kind of, even if I didn't want a break, but I also have a very good coach and a very good like structure such that, yes, I was peaked for that event, but also like physically, mentally, emotionally, I was ready to keep going. Just my body got fully sick. I took a week off and then got to build back into the second half of the season.
There you go. I think that even if it wasn't necessarily planned that way, it's probably going to end up well. It seems like you've been racing well. Good race in Ibiza.
Yes, I hope it continues.
Awesome. Yeah.
We'll see.
I think it probably will. So
the last race of the season seems very long and far away, so it's probably good to have a little break.
You got a proper build to that. I assume that's World Championships in Topaz, the last race?
December 14th.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Are you going to go?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, good.
I'm excited. I don't know if you know this or not, but I have commentated every single Ironman or Ironman 70.3 that you've done.
Really? I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that till today, too. Yeah, fun fact. I'd like to say...
What this fun fact?
Me, I was like, oh, okay, has she done other... No, I did your first in Boulder, and then Boulder again.
What? Okay, you might miss one.
Which one?
Well, so I did Boulder, 70.3 Worlds.
Yeah, I was there.
Then Oceanside, 70.3 Worlds.
Yeah, I did that.
Boulder, 70.3 Worlds.
And then Oceanside. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did all those.
Oh, wow.
All of them.
In Kona. I remember you were in Kona.
Taylor was, I think, offered my job after Kona.
Oh, why? Because I was talking to the camera?
Because I made a mistake.
Oh.
I said you got a penalty for a 4-minute penalty, and while I was saying that, you corrected me on camera. And of course, social media said that Taylor Knibb is a better commentator than Lieto, which could be true. It probably is.
Well, no, because I would say that I should know my penalty that I'm getting. I freaked out, though, because the penalty tent was not where it was supposed to be. So it was like for 2 miles, I thought it was DQ'd, which is fun at like, what, mile 80, 90 of an Ironman? Yeah.
I will say you handled that quite well. Okay, I want to come back to that because I can tell this is going to be a hard podcast for me because I love going on tangents, and I think we can go on tangents all day. But first, I want to talk about the Olympics because I was quite impressed by, obviously, you qualified for the road race and the time trial, right? By getting, was it second at Nationals?
No, I won Nationals in the time trial, and that qualified for me the time trial, and by, I guess, extension, also the road race, because of quotas. I was never going to race for the road race, don't worry.
Right.
I have a coach who's very smart, he respects the sport, and I'd never done a road race before. I don't think it's appropriate to line up for your first type of event at the Olympics. So, no.
And in like retrospect, the woman who won the gold medal technically got your spot that you did not take, correct? Mm-hmm. So, like, do you feel like a team player in that? Like, did that kind of ensure that you made the right choice, or you already knew you made the right choice?
Oh, I knew I made the right choice regardless. And it's, like Laurent says, we do not get in the way of other people's dreams. Yeah. And so it's like, it would have been obnoxious to keep the spot. Like, you want to give everyone the opportunity they can. And if you're not going to do it and serve it justice, you have to give it up.
That's awesome. Can I give you a high five for that, please? I think that's great. I think there isn't enough of that. Like, the sport to be good at sport, you have to be selfish to a certain extent. So, like, letting that go is, I think, an honorable thing. So good for you.
Well, thank you.
Good job. So you chose not to do the road race, and you did the time trial, being U.S. national champion. Was there nerves going into that?
Oh, yes, 100%. But it was also, I would say, it was probably one of the best experiences leading up into the race.
Yeah.
USA Cycling is very professional.
Okay.
And they have a team who's been to a lot of Olympics together. And so I think that says a lot. Like, they all want to come back and do it again. But also they have things dialed.
Yeah.
Like, to a T. And one of the coaches they brought was Kristen Armstrong, who won in 2008, 2012,
absolute legend.
Yeah. Yes. And she coaches Chloe. Yep. But also, like, just to be able to ask her some things and talk to her about some things, it was like, that was just like, that's a huge edge. But we practiced, like, I was really scared for the start ramp, and like,
right.
You have like the right gear and all this stuff. And
so those that don't know, what is that situation like, the start ramp? They're like, well, but start, that's not hard, but it's like, that would be probably what I'd be nervous about too.
Well, yeah, I should, in retrospect, I should have been more nervous for the ice rink out there. But I mean, you never know. So, but yeah, so someone holds you, and they're normally like off to the side. Chloe recommended, because the bike holder, especially in international events, might not speak English.
Oh, okay.
So she's like, you can point to which side you want to move, because they might be like holding you off to one side, and you want to be straight.
Yeah.
And so then like there's a clock that beeps down, and then
you're clicked in.
Oh, clipped in, yeah. Which I asked my first time trial, like, can I have my feet on top of the pedals and just, like, get in? I mean, I'm full triathlete.
Yeah, totally.
Which, Kristen Armstrong started in triathlon.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that's kind of cool.
That is.
But, yes, full triathlete, but no, I've learned the time trial way. We have to be respectful and do it the right way.
Yeah.
And so then you go. But you want to make sure your feet are in the right position. You have to take a pedal stroke. We'd practice kind of standing up on the ramp a little bit near the bottom, because like you want to get up to speed quickly, but it was really slippery. So they said just sit down and get down the ramp. And then it all went awry. But just getting to like pre-ride the course, they closed the whole course off.
Yeah.
Like before the race. And we had a little bit of a disaster getting there because of bus.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But anyway. So it's like 31K loop in the city of Paris closed. And you just get to ride it. It was closed from
crazy.
4:30 to 7:30, as many loops as you want. But once you started a loop, you had to complete it, because they wanted all direction.
One direction, yeah.
But so the first lap, I kind of did on my own, and Chloe was there, but they had two cars, so one for men, one for women. And so the second lap, I got to follow Chloe's lines. Well, she's a professional. Like, she's very impressive.
Yeah.
And so it's just cool to see, because she had the whole course memorized before she stepped foot on it. That's the level of detail and dialedness, and just, it's a professional sport.
Like, they watch videos of somebody that's like driven the course. Is that what they do?
And Google Maps and just everything. But she knew what line she was going to take already, and just all these things. Like and Kristen Armstrong's her coach, so
Yeah.
like, they are dialed. They know how to do this, and you just realize that professional cycling is a level above triathlon.
Well, and she won her first Olympic medal when she was a teenager on the track. Like, she's been doing it for a long time.
I don't know her full resume, but
Yeah.
that would make sense. It's Chloe. She's very impressive and like just a very kind, thoughtful, like
Yeah.
type A driven person.
Yeah.
Just so impressive.
No, that's seems like you know this, but lucky to have those two women be a part of that experience.
Yeah, I just hope I didn't drag them down.
I don't think you did. So you're referring to the fact that like a lot of people crashed because it literally looked like an ice rink out there.
Yes, and I made the mistake. I broke my front brake in the first crash. And so like my back wheel was going nuts. And so yeah, like I didn't want to brake for any turn, but you have to brake at the turn.
Yeah.
But so I don't know if this is legal or not. I might get DQ'd. But so after two more crashes, I asked like, how do you do a bike change? Because I mean that's what you want to learn in the Olympics. Like I have a very generous bike sponsor who brought extra bikes though. So
Yeah, totally.
It's like I had a bike ready to go and it was perfect, but I was like, I needed to do the bike change because I'm like, I cannot safely get around this course on this bike anymore. So it is what it is.
So that's where it kind of snowballed because you didn't have proper control of your bike after the first crash.
Yeah, and I didn't know that because I don't know these things
Yeah,
about
sure,
biking.
sure.
So now I do know that. Now I also have a skills coach, so I'm going to learn slowly. But it wasn't the best.
Dude, and it was gnarly. Like, and the fact that you said everything about Chloe and she crashed, right?
Yeah.
And hard.
Yeah, like she could. Yeah, I won't say anything, but it was.
Not to her fault, and some people will look and be like, "Oh, these people are crashing," but then the thing that kind of like showed how gnarly it was that when you got a bike change, your mechanic fell on you and your bike. Essentially, like he looked like he was on ice. That was insane.
Yeah, that red section especially was really slippery.
It was like cobbled or something.
No, it was just a different surface, and I don't know why it was. And so, but Jim Miller was driving the car behind me,
Coach.
And he said the way you took that there's like this first roundabout at 4.8K, because like they have every turn dialed.
Yeah.
Like, it is insane. And like, do you take it in your skis, your bars, or out? Like and you have a radio, and like it's cool.
Yeah,
It's
that's cool.
awesome.
That's cool.
You get to ride on any side of the road. Like there's no.
In Paris, like that's crazy.
Yeah, it was. But he said the way you took that first corner, I apparently took it faster than Magnus Sheffield, the guy he drove for.
Yeah.
Took it, and Magnus crashed too. But he's like, yeah, so I kind of knew it was either going to be really good or really not good. Because he's like, well, she's going for it.
And did
like,
you crash on that one or no?
No, I crashed.
Yeah.
I actually, so the race is broken up into thirds for me, and Dan gives me like rate of perceived exertion. So the first third is really controlled.
Yeah.
And then like I crashed at like 18 or 19 minutes. So I was like, I had increased my watts. I was going faster, and that's when I went down, which I think that's part of my issue is I don't have the skills to complement the speed that I can go.
Right.
So I need to play catch up with those skills. Because you're also, I don't know how to slow. Because think about it, in an Ironman, if you're going 25, 26 miles an hour, and then in time trial you're going 30, 31 miles an hour.
Totally.
You have to slow that much more because you're still going to take the corner at the same speed.
Yeah.
But I don't account for that. So, like, things you want to learn from the Olympics.
Well, good for you, right?
Hard way.
Maybe the hard way. But learning that a lot of people would maybe look at those conditions and be like, oh, maybe I don't have that much to learn. But you're like, no, I could be a lot better. And obviously the people that surround you are able to guide you there. But it is, for those listening, and I just must say, I don't like talk about athletes outside of work that often. But when you won time trial nationals, I was like, dude, you're on a totally different level, right? Like,
Didn't realize time trial nationals had like 4 turns in it, so it was like perfectly suited for me. It was dry, it was wonderful. I had Mark Andrews in the car, like my people were there, so it's like all good.
Totally, but like I had an ex-girlfriend that was a UCI time trialist, won the Kristen Armstrong time trial years ago, and like was a part of that process. And there's a lot of women that spend their whole lives to try to be as good as possible at that event. So for you and one of your first time trials to win a national championship is very impressive. And then to like, I also think I think the word courageous is maybe thrown around too much in sport because it's like just sport. But like, I think it's kind of courageous to go out on the biggest possible stage and put yourself out there to like not have a great event like you did, right?
Well, thank you, but also yes and no, because before the time trial, I was like really nervous, not the both the Olympics and the Nationals. And Dan said, just imagine these women doing a WTCS race. And he's like, this should be the most low pressure race of your year. Yeah, you can have fun with it. Like, it's a no-lose situation, which I don't always have in triathlon, which is just kind of a fun environment to throw yourself into. And so you have to be grateful for that. Yes, there's an Olympic slot on the line, but it was the lowest pressure race of the year in a lot of ways. No,
that's cool. I appreciate that. But the only reason you are able to have that perspective, obviously, is the people that are around you and that you've been at such a high level in sport where you've been in these pressure situations, right?
Yes, and it's a cool event.
Yeah.
I love it.
Do you? You going to do more of it?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And the rest of the Olympics, obviously, we got a medal, which is pretty cool.
Yes, I think I underestimated how much energy crashing takes.
When I saw that was what I was worried about for you.
Yeah, and I was just like, that's like, if I could tell myself anything different, I would be like, eat a lot more. Because I was very grateful to have, I don't know if you know Lawrence Fendling, and he was in Paris, so I was like on his table for probably 2 hours every day, and like my body, like physically for what happened, like how many times I went down and how hard I went down, like I couldn't have asked for a better like body condition structurally.
Right. And your body has to work really hard to recover from that.
Yes, and there was a lot of open stuff, and there was a lot of so it's just like, and then you're diving into the sun, and it was even like I didn't run the day. There were 4 days in between. Or like, it was the 27th and the 31st. So on the 29th, I went for a run, and Dan's like, it probably won't feel good, but we have to test that you can actually run. Yeah. Which, I mean, that's really what you want to be doing 2 days out from a really big race. Like, this probably will be really uncomfortable for 10 to 20 minutes, just jogging. But you go have to, like, it's just, but I wouldn't change a thing. And we committed to a plan and a path, and it didn't work out, but
that's awesome.
You can't second guess your decisions.
No, and you put yourself out there to do something that is unique. Like, nobody has ever done those two separate sports. Like, there's people that obviously do a lot of multiple events in certain disciplines, but those are essentially two different sports.
Yes. And I also think that I had a different level of respect for the wet roads. Yeah. Having been on them, and I don't know if I would have gotten around the triathlon course upright had I not been in the time trial, because I would have raced on 28 tires. Patrick, I was freaking out when it was wet, because, like, I mean, you go through that, you know how slippery it is. Like, a lot of Kopecky crash in the time trial. World Triathlon, do you really think it's a smart idea to have this race?
Right.
Like, I would say, like, and you saw how many women went down in the race.
And you also, like, that hurts. Like, you don't want to do that.
No, you don't at all. So Patrick Lemieux, my manager, I said, can you please send me whatever tires I need to ride if it rains.
Yeah, right.
And Erin Carson, my strength coach, was flying out. Like, I have a huge team. And so Patrick gave her the tires. The bike mechanic, like, changed them out for me. So I rode 32s.
Rad.
Rad. And even one corner I went around and I, like, slipped a little bit. And I'm like, ooh, it's a little slippery. So so that was, like, that was what it was. But I don't know if I had the skill to get around that course any other way.
Yeah, no, and good for you for, like, noticing that. And because of that, you were able to stay upright and get a medal. And that finish on the relay was nuts.
Yes, I'd never done a sprint finish before, which is something you want to be thinking, like, 500, 600 meters out. Like, how do I do a sprint finish? So
I love that.
Yeah, but hats off to Laura. I mean, she's, I think, probably one of the best sprinters. She doesn't lose a sprint. And that's really impressive. And then also Beth Potter. Like, it was It's a fun race.
And to sprint after you, like, put your head in the wind, obviously on the bike, like, you were aggressive on the bike, and then on the run, you weren't letting other people set the pace.
Well, yeah, I feel like that's how I have to do. I mean, it's not really and my competitors, this isn't no surprise that I don't really have the, like, punch. It's more, I was talking to actually Vicky Holland about this. We were previewing the Ibiza course in the car together. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, you don't really have a pop, Taylor. We know you're diesel. Like, so don't worry. This isn't any secret. Anyone who's raced me knows. So I've just got to go and get better at shifting gears.
Yeah. Well, for not having a lot of pop to do a sprint finish and bring home a silver medal, that's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you.
And I gotta say,
my teammates set me up really well.
They did, for sure.
And, like, also not only, like, where I was, like, relative to the race, but also not having that many teams. Like, that was so integral. Like, both parts of, like, not only being, I think I was passed off in, like, 3rd through 5th area, but also, like, getting rid of a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't have dealt with a lot of people around me.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. That's awesome. And I mean, for someone that doesn't have a lot of pop for short course, I mean, that's not obviously true. It's all perspective. But suits you well for, you've had pretty good success, 70.3 in Ironman and a 4th place at Ironman your first time in Kona?
Well, I only have one Ironman experience,
Yeah.
so I've never been on the podium. I've never won an Ironman. It's 4th place, so I hope to better that next year. But
There you go.
We'll see.
What did you learn from your first Ironman in Kona at the World Championship that you're going to use for next year?
Well, where do you want to start?
Wherever you want it.
Also, the first thing was I was not worried about the swim until I did the practice swim like a week out. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so long.
It's so fun.
It's so long. And coming from short course, I wear really tight goggles. So like probably like 37.
That's your problem, is your eyes were like sore?
Well, yeah, 37 minutes in, I start like scrunching my eyes because I'm like, I want to get these out of my sockets. Like they just hurt so much. And so then but it also just like you're swimming such a long time.
Yeah.
And then, so the swim, that's a while. Nutrition, need to dial. My bottle cages, I need to dial. I have a new bike set up, so like my front end's different.
Okay, cool.
I just need to like learn how to be aero. And then, the bike, but like learning Ironman watts and that rhythm and nutrition and the fueling, like that's just a whole, like it's another side to the sport that you don't understand. And then the run, it was a run walk for me by the end.
Again, being maybe a little bit humble, but I will say I have some advice that I don't want you to take for being more aero on the bike.
Okay, what's that advice?
Not like turning your head and talking all the time. You were so talkative. It was the best. I loved it.
Well, I was having so much fun out there. Like it was it was a dream for me to always race like Kona. Like that's been the dream. Like people talk about the Olympic dream, but like for me it was the IRONMAN World Championships. And so to get to do that, like it was just like a celebration of the year.
That's so cool. And it was very clear. And like I could tell before the race you were excited about it, but then when you're out, I'm like, oh, Taylor's having so much fun out here.
Yeah, that's the thing. I had fun. And it was fun even when it like I didn't know if I was gonna finish. I think the most eye-opening moment was when I had 3K left. So like 2 miles.
In the run. Mm-hmm. And you're like, I don't think I'm gonna get there.
Well, I asked, what's the gap? Like suddenly, like when you're in the race, it's like, where are you looking? Are you looking ahead to the gap or behind to the gap? And I was looking behind the gap at that point. And it was like, how far behind is Daniela? And I was told 6 minutes. So that means, like, I was like, ooh, she's running 4 minutes per K. I have to run 6 minutes per K, which is like 10-minute miles. And I'm like, I don't know.
That's an ask.
Yeah, like if you hear I have 6 minutes with 3K to go, you think you should be good.
Do you think you're good?
No.
That's the thing, is you can like, was it cool to be in that experience where you were like, I don't literally know if I'm going to have to walk the rest of this way?
Well, like.
In hindsight, maybe.
Yeah, I also like that. Those are the fun moments because you kind of have to make these decisions, and you're never put in those like how are you going to respond? That's like, and you can't predict how you're going to respond unless you're thrown into that. And I think it was also with like a K to go. I was told like put your suit up, like be respectful for your sponsors.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, that just seems like
that's so hard.
Yeah, but like you're going to do it, so it's like.
That's funny. And how hard is, people talk about, they just got to turn right and go down Polani. How hard is it running down Polani? I always find it so hard.
I don't remember most of it. I think that was the part where I it's like, when you're working hard and you just don't remember it in retrospect. Like, I don't remember most of my races. Like,
okay.
So
maybe I never went hard enough because I remember everything of my races.
Oh no, maybe that was even like a different level. Like you're just so like.
Very gracious of you. Thank you. You never saw me race, so I understand. No, that's amazing. And so this is a good time to bring up like, maybe motivation and why you started in the sport, because I was lucky enough to be able to chat with your mom, and I know it was very important for you to be able to race Kona alongside your mom. Was she an inspiration going into triathlon?
Definitely. But it was also, I think my dad played a key role because my dad would bring my brother and I to my mom's races.
Oh, cool.
And I was always in such a bad mood because I'm like, I want to be out there. I want to be doing that. And
that's so rad. Like, how old were you when you had this attitude?
Like, it was like 2006, 2007, 2008. I did my first race in 2009. So it was like 8, 9, 10. So, but it's like you just, so my brother was there too, like shared environment. It did not have that effect on him, but I was just like, I want to be out there. I want to be doing that.
Well,
so like, was it her? Yes, but it was also, if she'd been doing it on her own, I feel like the fact that they made it, like, I went to Kona in 2010 to watch her. So,
rad.
yeah, she went out early and my dad had to take my brother and I out there. So it was, we were not invited back because...
What? Is it too distracting?
No, we were fighting. You know, when you're coming out of the harbor back onto the Queen K, she passed us, and my brother and I were fighting on the side of the road. And so she's like, so that was in my head the whole way, that, like, you guys are being awful, so you guys are not invited back.
That's amazing. Good job, team. I've never heard of having family on the side of the road in the middle of lava fields to be like a setback in some of these races.
My brother. Yeah, so my brother and I are better now. But,
there you go.
So we're invited back.
And your mom was lovely. She was great.
Oh, good. I love my mom too.
And she actually apologized when I saw her like the second time, because she was like, "I'm sorry. I think I like asked you about your brother or something." I was like, it's okay. Everybody asked me about my brother. It's fine. But I was like, that's the cutest that she like thought I cared. It's great. But your mom's awesome. So are you, I assume, excited to go back to the Big Island?
Yes.
Yes. Will you be watching Kona in a couple weeks to see if you can learn anything from the gentleman?
Yes. Patrick told me that I should take copious notes. So
you should.
Yes. But I also think I'm a fan of the sport, and so I'm going to watch it. I watched Nice. I watched, parts of Nice because I was asleep in Boulder. So I won't say that I was up the whole night. But yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I think it's going to be really exciting. There's just such depth. Yeah. So.
And any impressions from Nice? Anything you learned from there? Laura Philipp can ride a bike uphill pretty fast.
Well, I think in her run, that was so impressive.
Dude.
Yep. I don't want to say that, but I called her winning. Like, she was my prediction.
I did too.
And some people, like, at the swim, they're like, well, like, no, like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, she just, it was so impressive. And you kind of knew, like, you never know it's coming, but you also kind of, like, you've seen her progression over the years, and it's like, wow. Like,
you look at the women currently racing that don't have an Ironman World Championship, and she stood out that she hadn't had one yet.
Yeah, and Nice is a course, and I mean, like, just knowing how to ride a bike, that was impressive.
Yeah, and you're right, that run, like, she was working hard the first lap, and I think she was working hard the whole time, but I went up and, like, you know, got some eye to eye, and she was, like, gave me a smile. Like, I think she had a little bit more. She was impressive. That was a little bit scary.
Well, yeah, and after that ride, because you have, like, a little extra time.
Dude, that's a long bike ride. Super long. Okay, so if you had, you've got American, let's see, I'm trying to think. Yeah, Ben Canute, first time, Kona. It was your first time in Kona. Any advice on someone like Ben Canute, who's similar, like, could have a similar result to you, like, is a contender? Any input you would have for, like, first experience? Except, like, my input would be stay in aero, don't, like, talk to me as much as Taylor did. But I actually would enjoy it because I think Ben's great, and I want to compare mustaches while he's riding, but...
Well, I think you probably have better advice. I feel like I'm probably not the person to give advice. Like,
I don't know. I think you might be.
But he's a track athlete, and so I would say listen to Mark. And I actually, maybe one of the key things is Mark would always make sure I was riding outside of town. Never ride inside of town race week.
Yeah.
And Mark was very clear about that, and he was always out in a car with me. And so take Mark up on that. Because I think the biggest thing is you need to get to the start line.
Totally.
First and foremost. I did the practice swim. I would recommend anyone, like, do the practice swim. I don't know what it's called. There's a whole name for it.
Koala.
Okay. Yeah.
Koala. I always pronounce it wrong.
Well, yeah, I would just recommend it. Like, It was just to do it. And you don't have to race it. But, I mean, Lucy raced it seemed like, and she did well. So
she did pretty well.
Stick to your plan.
Yeah.
But
I think that's good advice. And I agree on the Mark. I always had Mark out there when I was in Kona racing. And part of the reason I gave you that input on aero was because that was the only thing he told me. He's like, Matt, keep your head down. Stop talking. But some of us have to. It's such a long bike ride.
Yeah. And it just like, and also you don't want to get off the bike and, like, I kept my head down and then you're just, like, stuck.
Totally. Like, I do think, are you one of those people, like, people used to kind of Like, I actually had competitors that would tell my brother after the race, like, you need to tell your brother to shut up during the race. He talks too much. And I'm like, dude, I can't, like, I wouldn't be able to get through it if I didn't have, like, that external. Like, it seems like, at least in longer distance races, I'll only seem to do one, like, Ironman distance race. But is that part of it for you to, like, do you get energy from people around? Do you need a little distraction?
It depends on the people.
Oh, okay.
So it's like if you're, but I could make it through without. I could enjoy it the whole way. Like,
there you go.
Come train with me and you'd get a good glimpse. But I'm normally talking, so
okay,
I think in the swim group you could ask, and it's kind of be quiet, Taylor.
That's the best though. Swimming's so boring. Like, you got 10 seconds. Do you like ask people like important questions before like the send off?
No, we just talk, but also like one of the women who stood with us, like we had a VO2 set, and she's like, Julie Dibbins, like, it's VO2, so there should not be talking, right?
Yes.
Actually, Caden was there that day.
My nephew. Yeah.
He was like, you could tell he had a really good song in his head, and he was just like jamming the whole swim. Like,
that's hilarious.
He brings really good energy.
Good.
Yes.
He's holding the Lieto torch of good vibes in the swim.
Oh, yes. And it's a good group now.
Okay, yeah, so I wanted to ask, like, what's training been like this summer? I know you had, well, I guess maybe the last couple months, you've been in a good little routine, getting back into it?
Yes, I have a great weekly cycle. I love it. And I don't know what more to add.
Yeah, are you like a solo trainer? Obviously, you're training with the Dibbins swim squad.
Yeah, so Julie Dibbins is my swim coach, and so I go to her swims on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay.
And then the other sessions, I either link up with people or don't. I rode with Caden a lot on Wednesdays, and then he switched and he started running on Wednesdays.
Why would you do that, Caden? Everybody knows you long ride on Wednesdays.
I don't know. His coach is your brother, so you should ask him.
Chris rode on every Wednesday of his life. Like, how would he not? I don't get it.
But who knows? Like, to each his own.
I don't agree with Chris's coaching philosophy about Wednesdays.
No, but it's all good. And so if I link up and it works with someone, great. If not, like, actually, Julie joined me for my ride on Saturday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Is she still a hammer?
Well, yeah, we had a fun VO2 workout.
Ooh.
So, yes.
So if you're doing, is that a long ride with VO2, or what kind of, like, how long are we talking?
Yeah, it was like 3 hours. I know that's probably not a long for an Ironman athlete, but for someone coming from short course, but then I had 4 hours on Sunday, so it wasn't my longer ride of the weekend, but it was still, I'd call it a long ride. With
VO2, that's a pretty long ride, I'd say. Cool. So training's going well? Everything's smooth right now?
Well, I hope so.
Cool.
But the other shoe could drop tomorrow. I mean, it's like, I don't want to get sick. I don't want to get injured. I don't want, just things come up. So you have to.
Is that part of what the benefit of having, like, the bubble and the routine is, like, less unexpected things? You have more controllables? Because I think people underestimate, like, sport can be brutal, right? Like, you have these successes, you've had great success, but also at the same time you could randomly get sick, or like you run on a new trail and you injure because it's off camber or something like that, right?
Yeah, but also I think I have a tremendous team, and so I have a fantastic PT, and then I work with Lawrence, and so if something comes up, it's like, get it sorted ASAP.
Right.
And like, if I've gotten an MRI, it's kind of like, they're like, oh, we can schedule in 3 to 4 weeks. And I'm like, no, I need that today.
Yeah.
Like, how can I do this now? And so I think the timeline is very important in terms of, so you're not wasting time.
Yep.
And it's like, you have your information and and I have people who know my body, people who are like, I really trust. And so do we catch everything? No, but just having those like safety nets, I think, are really important.
And seem to be like very smart, right? Like, you're only as strong as your team. And I was impressed in hindsight. And beforehand, I was like, when you were going to go to Kona after having your foot surgery last year, I was like, oh man, that seems like a little bit risky. But clearly they like knew, and they knew that you can only know so much, but they were very confident that you weren't putting yourself at risk.
Well, yeah. And actually, I think the big thing was, like, we had clear like goals, and it was like, do not leave your Paris race out in the lava fields, which ironically I left it out on the streets of Paris 4 days before. So you know what? I mean, it was like great. But also, like, you can't underestimate when something brings an athlete joy. Like, you can't always tell them no. And so, like, the amount of energy that brought me, like, just the preparation and the race, and also kind of to know for the future, like, I love the distance. I didn't really do an Ironman build, so I can't say, but like, I feel like the training, it just like, it feels like home for me. Wow. So, but like short course racing is more like forcing it for me, but then like the middle distance is more comfortable, and then the longer stuff is more comfortable.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's hard for me not to point out that like I'm very impressed by your maturity as an athlete. I don't know outside of the athletic realm how mature you are or not, but do you have, obviously we've talked about your team, but it seems like you have really great perspective for someone your age on like what's important, what gives you strength, and what you value. Because I think a lot of athletes that have experience at your age get stuck in a very regimented, do what you're supposed to do to be faster, and then take the joy out of it to an extent, where it seems like you're able to kind of work both sides really well.
Well, because I know that the joy will bring more out for me.
Yeah.
So it's like, for some people who like joy doesn't matter, or like the excitement doesn't matter, like they don't care about it. But I know like I want to have my best performance, and I know kind of how that comes. Yeah. And so that's important that I have it.
What brings you the most joy out of like the training for big events, or like looking at a world championship? Like what do you think in that process building up to, or the race, is like the most joyful part for you?
Well, so you'll probably hate this answer, but like I really love my life. Like I love each day, and I love what I get to do each day. And it's like I'm grateful that I have very much like a weekly cycle, but I love it. But then also I love doing things that I've never done before. So that's when it's like, even if it's a training session, if it's in the race, and I'm held back a lot in training now. So it's like the only time I'm kind of let loose and allowed to do things I've never done before is in the race. And so it's like surprising yourself. That's fun.
Oh, you didn't know if I was going to like that answer. I just think I love that answer. That's the best answer. That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, I align a lot with that. And that's how I was as an athlete. I didn't have any great performances, so that's where we differ. The joy didn't bring me quite as much, but no. And again, I think that is unique for someone of your age to like recognize that and realize that that's important. And without that, like some people say, oh, if she wasn't trying these new things, maybe she'd be better at this thing. But it's like, no, if you weren't trying those new things, you wouldn't have the joy to be able to be good at the other thing.
Exactly. And it's also, I think, knowing yourself and playing to your strengths. Like we always hear about like work on your weaknesses, but you gotta play your strengths hard.
Yeah.
And also know yourself, and no one knows yourself. Like you should know yourself best, but also open yourself up to the people around you so that they can learn you and know you and maybe point out different things. And I'm fortunate enough to have a lot of people who like are very honest with me.
That's great. Love that. Okay, so is there anything that, you know, you've said that you're able to do things that you aren't allowed to do or that are somewhat new on race day. Is there anything like a stretch goal? Like obviously, I assume the time trial was. Is there anything outside of the sport that you're like thinking about already in the near future, or are we just looking towards maybe 70.3 Worlds end of the year and then Kona next year?
Yeah, I'm just focused on the end of this year. I think it's like just stay focused and then see, because no one has their schedule out. So it's like, and the calendars aren't out next year, so you can't really plan. Right. So I have a coach who really likes to plan, and we'll sit down and make a race schedule, provided he'll work with me again. So I hope we're good. And
yes, there's that humility again, everybody.
Well, yeah, but you can't assume. That's the thing.
Great.
You have to be grateful for who you get to work with and for however long you do.
Yeah. Man, wise beyond your years. I'm very impressed.
Maybe.
I'm very impressed.
You don't see the other areas of my life.
No, this is great. I mean,
non-existent.
I mean, like I said, maturity in the sport.
Yes.
I don't know, outside the sport. So heard also you have a new partner, maybe some new equipment this year that you're kind of excited about. Is that true?
Is this a segue for Hoka?
Yeah, we weren't supposed to say segue, but yeah.
Well, yes, I'm very excited. They were very, very patient with me because I had very stringent, like a run shoe is a very big deal.
Yeah.
And so I needed to make sure I had a really good training shoe, first and foremost. Well, actually, first and foremost, a good racing shoe.
Okay.
And my racing shoe had to fulfill a short course race and a mid-distance race.
Yeah.
And so when Abu Dhabi was canceled, that pushed it back for Hoka, apologetically.
Yeah.
But I needed to race. I raced Oceanside,
Yeah.
passed the test, and then Yokohama, passed the test. And so it was, but like you need to be able to challenge the equipment in a race scenario before making a big decision. So, or at least I do. I know some athletes probably wouldn't, but I had the training shoe, great, and then I love the Rocket X too. So
That's awesome. And I think there are a lot of athletes that will have a conversation with a sponsor and will just assume it's going to be fine and like sign the contract because we only know like you don't always get opportunities. And again, that's a sign of maturity to be like, no, I got to make sure this is great.
Again, the assumptions. It doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
You can't assume. You just have to and just like lay it out there and say like, this is what I need. And at the end of the day, if I said to Hoka, like I need, and this is like what I told them, like
yeah.
I want, like this is what I want to do, and this is why I want to do it. Like I need all these tests, and then at the end of them, I'll make the decision. If they say no, well, I don't want to work with them.
Sure.
So that gives me a really good litmus.
Yeah.
Because I care about who I work with and that they align with my values. And first and foremost, performance is the goal and like being the best I can be. And so they passed in
That's
that
awesome.
regard. And then they also passed. And so they're very patient with me and I'm very grateful.
Yeah, and they're like, I know a lot of the people you were dealing with in that process, and they're all pretty rad human beings.
Oh yeah, they're incredible.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah. And I'm just learning. It's like, it's just unfolding even more. And I love getting to work with them.
Yeah.
So.
Do you notice, because I feel like you have this energy, do you believe in like you kind of get what you give, or you have to be open to certain things, and like you've found yourself to have a lot of great relationships professionally and obviously like your support team? Do you think that's partly to do with like you just being open? And
I hadn't thought of that. There are members like who I get to work with who are very good with relationships and work on them. So
yeah.
They're very honest. Like I wouldn't have the relationships with my partners or sponsors without Patrick. He's
Right.
very good at like teaching and also like being able to say yes and no
Yeah.
and identify. Because just having someone as an advisor to be just like a second eye is really helpful because
Right.
you don't always see clearly.
Yeah, and that's well said. And I think though, like Patrick is also a unique individual, and I think I don't believe it's like luck that you like run into those people, or like those people will like Patrick doesn't take on every athlete that comes to him.
Well, I'm very grateful he works with me. So it's
Right, and he does
Yes.
that for a reason because you have this triathlon maturity.
well, yeah, some days he'd argue that more than others.
I know, I've heard it. Maybe I've heard it. We talked about it.
Yeah, I think Ibiza was a fun week for him. He was like, "Yeah, I knew you were very nervous."
He can take it though. He's got some experience with.
He's very level-headed.
Yeah, I think Gwen has helped him with that level-headed.
But she's awesome. I
great.
swim with her, and so it's like just like that level and that professionalism, and just like Julie will say, "Oh, I have 2 sets today," and Gwen will say, "Which one's harder?"
That's
and
awesome.
Like
I
that's the
100%
one. That's what she's gonna do. Like which one's harder? And how many athletes do that?
Dude, she was out in band when she was like 8.5 months pregnant, and I did a swim squad, and I was like, "Oh, Glenn, we're doing this, but you can do this." She's like, "I'll do the main set. Like, don't worry about it." I'm like, dang, dude, she's intense. I love it. Okay, so Topaz, your next 70.3.
Yes,
Pretty excited about that.
Ironman Brandon 70.3. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. I like it. It's fair. I'm excited for it. It is also the end of the IRONMAN Pro Series. And have you heard that? I don't know. As I said, I commentated Oceanside, and I was like, at the end of Oceanside, I was like, tip to women: if you're in the Pro Series, don't race when Taylor's racing, because you take a lot of points. And there's like some women that are like, I don't know if I'm going to go to Toba because Taylor's going to beat me by 6 minutes.
Well, I mean, I can't. I just hope I'm at the start line. Like it's a long season. You have to be very grateful for every chance you get to line up. So if anyone's basing it based on what I might do or not, I stick to your plan.
There's assumptions.
Yes.
Dude, I can't throw any question where I'm like expecting some answer where you're going to have some weakness and you just throw maturity back at me.
No, you have to stick to your plan and like do what you're going to do, and you can't control anyone else who's going to be there or not. And so
I think that's fair. Okay, so for age groupers listening and pros listening, I think you've already set a great example of kind of why you are successful and the attitude that it takes to be successful. But I'm still going to ask, what piece of advice would you give, we'll say an Ironman first timer, because you were an Ironman first timer not that long ago, to trying to complete their first Ironman? What would be the biggest piece of advice, or a few, that you would give them to help them in that journey?
Well, enjoy the journey. Like, it sounds simple, but it's actually harder. I mean, because it can be tough. There aren't always good days, and but like, you're doing it for a reason, and you should enjoy it. And if you're not, like, have someone who's honest with you, like, if you're coming back from your training and you're a worse partner, parent, child, whatever your role is in life, and you're worse than people around you, maybe a pause on the goal for a little bit. But like, if it brings you more energy and you can show up and be like a better person or a better friend, or like just like, then great, keep going. But don't let it detract from the more important things in life.
Dude, she just keeps sending the gold like every time.
Seriously. No, like, you have to live by it, so it's a high standard.
No, I mean, I think that's great. And I think, again, I'm impressed by someone your age at the top level. Generally, we see people with the success that you have. Not often do they get to where they are at your age with that attitude. Usually they have to go through a period of time where they're not following their joy, and then they realize it doesn't work, and then they have to rebuild, and maybe they find it. But I think I'm pretty impressed that you've found it already.
Well, let's talk in 11 weeks in New Zealand, and you'll be like, oh, she's off the cliff. She's going to re-find it again. No, I think there are always waves.
And I was going to give these to you earlier, but you do like cookies still, right? Is that a thing?
Oh, yes, I love cookies, but specifically crumble normal. Sorry.
You don't like Lucky's? It's local, right down the street.
They look very fancy.
There's one that's got these cookies were expensive.
Well, thank you.
You can take them home and give them to your dog if you want, if you don't want to eat them.
I don't have a dog yet, but I really want one. Maybe I should get one just to give the cookies to.
What's it going to take for you to get a dog?
Oh, I don't know. Some more maturity.
Someone to take care of your dog for you?
No, if you're going to get a dog, you want to commit to it. So, knowing I don't have to go to rain camps, but no. No, it's a big commitment, and I don't know if I'm like, I take care of myself fairly.
I think you're doing a great job, and I think people listening would agree. And thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Thank you for having me and for flying into Boulder for this. Yeah, I appreciate it.
No, it's great, and I think I'm glad I did, because I forget, and every time I'm around you, I remember how joyful you are and like how excited you are about the sport. And like, I was lucky enough to commentate your very first 70.3.
Oh, in Boulder.
When you were on your road bike.
Yeah, I didn't even know what a disc wheel was. Like,
I know, I knew all this. I was talking to Pat. I'm like, this is crazy.
He was concerned if I'd be able to finish the run. He's like, Taylor, can you run that far? I'm like, well, I hope so. We'll see. Like,
dude, and you went after it, but you could tell you were like really excited.
Yeah.
And you were finding joy back then.
Oh, yes, entirely.
And it was one of only 2 races, 70.3s, you didn't win, right? Because then Worlds, you got second?
I got third.
Third.
Yeah.
There you go.
So far.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it down. I feel like I had to.
No, I went to the bathroom and Jeannie passed me and she beat me by like 8 seconds.
That's right.
Yeah. But Lucy, she won by 8 minutes. That was like one of Lucy's tremendous days.
Yeah. I was trying to close out. There's just going to be a couple minutes. But do you find that, do you feel lucky at all to have been around, like people say you're only as good as your competition, and you have been able to race Daniela Reef, who's retired now, and Lucy Charles Barclay on that day, I think was one of the best 70.3 performances to that day that I'd ever seen. Do you feel lucky at all that you've been able to be around that and be like, oh, that's where I need to be?
Oh, yes, tremendously. And then also I think like being able to share the race course with all the women I get to race is always an honor. But then also being in Boulder, and I think the bigger thing to learn is like getting to see like Miranda Carfrae or Flora Duffy, and just like, it's like you see them on the race course, but then you also see like, how are they on an average Friday? are they kind to the people they're sharing a swim lane with? Like, just like little things and just how they hold themselves and how they behave and how they conduct themselves. And that's probably the best thing about, for me, living in Boulder, is like getting that like education of here's how a pro behaves.
You've had some great role models, because those are two amazing women and like the nicest.
Yes. And so it's like, and there are plenty more in Boulder.
Sure.
And just having that like breadth and seeing, because everyone's a little bit different. So you get to see, like, you can learn from everyone, both what to do and what not to do. Like, oh, I like that. Don't like that. Okay. Like, never going to do that, because that was awful.
That's awesome.
And then getting to talk to them, and people are like very kind here.
There you go. Well, off air, I'm going to ask who the never do that one was and what the circumstances that was. I'm excited to hear more about that. Again, thank you so much. I know you've had a busy week and you've got a lot going on at the end of the season, so we appreciate you coming in.
Well, thank you for having me.
There you go. Well, great stuff with Taylor Knibb. She's a lot of people's favorite, and there's no question as to why. And I know we'll be rooting for her when it comes to Topah later in the year. And Topah is also going to be the end. Not only is it a world championship, but it is the finale to the IRONMAN Pro Series this year. But just 2 races left for the women, 3 for the men. And, you know, things are tight right now. It's Jackie Herring, Kat Matthews, and Maya Stage Nielsen for second, third. But, you know, Jackie Herring's got 5 scores. She could improve her score in Topah, but Kat Matthews still has scores left, as does Hannah Berry, who's not too far back as well. So things are still going to shift a lot on the women's side. And on the men's side, it's Matt Hansen with a 4,000-point lead. He also has 5 races scored, where Arnaud Guillot in second has more races to score. I think just 1 left. Jackson Laundrie in third, but Patrick Lange in fourth with 1 more race left to score. And I'm sure he's looking to get a lot of points in Kona. So to stay across all the latest IRONMAN Pro Series news, follow at IronmanTry on Instagram and check out proseries.ironman.com for standings, athlete bios, episodes of A Fighting Chance, replays of the races, and more. And obviously I want to thank again our presenting sponsor, Maurten. They're the official sports performance nutrition partner of the Ironman Global Series, and all Ironman athletes have access to Maurten hydrogels and solids on course in 2024. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, share, and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. And if you're sitting on the trainer, you can also watch the podcast as a video on our IRONMAN Triathlon YouTube channel. Thanks again so much for joining us on the IRONMAN Insider presented by Maurten. And be sure to keep an eye on this space for more great conversations as we head into World Championship season. Still, we're in it already, but we still have the VinFast IRONMAN World Championship in Kona and obviously Topah as well. Right now, we're out for this week. I'm Matt Lieto, and thank you so much for tuning in.